Welcome, age of vintage society. The Ziegfeld Follies used their bodies to lead a life of glitz and glamour. And believe it or not, most found it empowering. Less is known about Florenze Ziegfeld the man. His work overshadowed him, but in reality, he was just as larger than life as his shows. He too wanted to be a star, a mysterious one that everyone knows, but who is rarely seen. Why, Ziegfeld Follies was much more than just a dance show. Make sure to watch the video until the end and leave your thoughts in the comments. If you are new here, join our wonderful community by subscribing to the Age of Vintage channel. Ziegfeld Follies, Rise of the Revue. Scandals and Follies. In its 1920s to 40s heyday, however, revue meant sparkling new songs and sketches. Though plotless, the best revues were formed around a unifying theme or principle. Newspaper headlines in As Thousands Cheer, world travel in At Home Abroad, lavish or intimate, revues were among the most popular and topical entertainments of their time, reflecting current fads, attitudes and events. In the years between the World Wars, nothing on Broadway catered to Manhattan nightlife like the Revue. During the Roaring Twenties, nearly 150 revues opened on Broadway. Pioneered by Florenze Ziegfeld and his elegant follies, revues allowed for an ever-shifting variety of songs, dances, skits and production numbers. Idiosyncratic comics, speciality dancers, emotive singers, and chorus girls all found a happy home for their particular talents. And costume and scenic designers had a field day too. Their flash, colour, topicality and brazenness caught the spirit of the age, but revues had their conveniences too. Unlike with later musical comedies, you could easily miss the first act and it wouldn't make any difference. Revues could be assembled easily, and there was always room for an additional investor, whether it was a newly minted Wall Street broker with a crush on a showgirl or a bootlegging gangster who wanted to see his girlfriend installed at the end of a chorus line. Ziegfeld's longest lasting legacy is his follies, young, beautiful and talented women who ruled Broadway at the turn of the century and shared, or stole in some cases, the stage with some of the era's entertainment greats. Some of the Ziegfeld Girls went on to become famous in their own right. Names like Lillian Lorraine, Jessica Reed, Billie Burke and Anna Held are inextricably linked with the lights, feathers and sparkle of the Ziegfeld Follies' glory days. The man behind the magic wasn't much of a thespian himself, but he didn't need to be. Ziegfeld's success came from his keen eye for aesthetics and his unflinching and at times straight-up obnoxious ability to delegate. He had a taste for extravagance and fostered such a lifestyle in his girls, many of whom were lavished with jewels, flowers and other tokens from admirers in their dressing room each night. In fact, the most highly paid performer of the era, Jessica Reed, was a Ziegfeld girl who made $125 per week, which would have been nearly $1,500 by today's standards. Not just any young woman would have the chance to dance with Ziegfeld though. From 1907 to 1927 he auditioned over 15,000 girls for his troupe, only accepting 3,000. The very first was a European music hall darling named Anna Held, who later became his muse. Ziegfeld fell in love with Held and brought her to America, crafting his first Broadway shows around her talents. With her 18-inch waist, exotic French accent and coquettish appearance, she was an instant hit. The two eventually married, but Ziegfeld's tendency to not only gamble away his earnings, but his trust with women, caused the marriage to turn. In truth, very little is known about Ziegfeld himself, As with his shows, he had a penchant for exaggerating his personal life and conquests in the name of performance. So too did Ziegfeld create drama for his girls, which usually landed them on the front pages of the papers. One such story involved a lawsuit to a milk farmer after he allegedly sent sour milk for Miss Held's daily baths. Yes, milk baths. The story was likely false, but it took off anyway, and soon enough Held was regarded as the Elizabeth Bathory of dairy. Ziegfeld's motivation for creating his follies was simple. He wanted to elevate and glorify the female figure by making women delightful and amusing to audiences. While the 1920s did usher in sensual freedom for women in the form of flappers, it was still a conservative time by today's standards, and the Follies' influence on liberating women's sexuality is mixed. Indeed, it can be argued that more than helping pave the way for a woman's future liberation, the Follies set the stage for modern objectification. Think 1940s pin-ups and today's centerfolds. None of the Ziegfeld Girls are alive today, the last of them having died in 2010. Similarly, it's unlikely that anyone who had seen an original Ziegfeld Follies performance is alive to share their thoughts. Still, the fascination with Ziegfeld and his girls persists, in large part because so many beautiful photographs exist. In an interview with the New York Times, Doris Eaton Travis, the last living Ziegfeld girl, didn't seem to have particularly bad memories of her time performing. In fact, most former Ziegfeld Follies had only fond memories of their glitzy past. Youth, beauty and global admiration was a dream come true to them. Many performers came from poor families, had no hope for an education or a life beyond the family trade or their farm. The glamour of New York City, the crystals and jewels, the fans, and certainly the allure of Ziegfeld himself, gave them a particular self-confidence that many held on to throughout their lives, even when they had retired from the stage and went on to be secretaries, school teachers and mothers. While Ziegfeld certainly had a preferred aesthetic for his girls, measurements 36, 26, 38, a perfect gait, the Ziegfeld walk, it wasn't all about looks. The girls worked hard, starting their rehearsals at 10:30 in the morning and routinely pulling 12-hour days to perfect their routines. The girls were not by any means waifs. They were trained dancers and had to be able to hold their own when they were off stage, as they were routinely approached by eager fans. Many Ziegfeld girls felt empowered by the expression of their sensuality. Certainly a novel idea in the 1920s, but in many ways a sentiment still echoed in today's world. The magic of the Ziegfeld Follies was Ziegfeld's obsession with detail. In a world where the female body is often sloppy and gratuitous, a look into the Ziegfeld Girls' archives is stunning. One might assume that Ziegfeld just really enjoyed looking at women's bodies, but taking a closer look at the photographs, you notice something deeper. Their poses, expressions and drapery, even if there wasn't much of it, were all created with one goal: to celebrate the female form. Ziegfeld ran away with Buffalo Bill Cody's Wild West show when he was 15. He allegedly won a shooting contest with Annie Oakley. For his entire life, Ziegfeld preferred rusticity to refined pursuits. His daughter, Patricia, stated he was in his element when camping, stubble-faced, as he cooked beans or scrambled eggs over a fire. Ziegfeld was never legally married to his first wife, Anna Held, portrayed so memorably by Louise Rainier in The Great Ziegfeld. Anna was not yet divorced at the time she and Ziegfeld declared themselves man and wife. They were together for 16 years, thus making them common-law husband and wife. Ziegfeld was a superstitious man with many phobias. Among the most bizarre of his fears were red roses, dwarves and clocks. He also demanded that any rose in his garden that showed signs of wilting be cut immediately. This all tied into his fear of death. He never attended funerals, not even that of Anna Held. Ziegfeld was not a peddler of glorified girly shows. He was quite a family man. After the birth of his daughter in 1916, he made his shows more family-friendly. When his beloved friend and favourite Follies star, Will Rogers, refused to appear in a show with bare skin in it, Ziegfeld never again had any of his chorines in a state of undress. Ziegfeld's marriage to Billie Burke, best known for her role as Glinda the Good Witch, was a tempestuous one. Billie was no Myrna Loy, who portrayed her as a patient and somewhat bland wife in The Great Ziegfeld. When Ziegfeld gambled or when she suspected him of infidelity, she went into what she called red-headed rages. She once hit him over the head with a soup ladle. Rather than infuriate him, it made him laugh, and he swept her into his arms, carrying her upstairs Rhett Butler style. She admitted she laughed at that point too. Many famous actresses got their start in the Ziegfeld Follies, for instance Marion Davies, Paulette Goddard, Barbara Stanwyck, Billy Dove and Mae Murray, among others. What revues also provided in spades was opportunities. There were so many chances for a songwriter to get his number placed in a show that the Revue became the greatest conservatory for popular music the country has ever seen. Composer Arthur Schwartz and lyricist Howard Dietz gave America some of its most memorable songs during this period. Dancing in the Dark, Alone Together, Something to Remember You By. Here then is one of the most important revues of the period, excepting the Ziegfeld Follies, which are in a category of their own. George White's Scandals, who for White irked his former employer, Florenze Ziegfeld, no end, when he broke away from the Follies franchise in 1919 to start his own revue. White's sharp eye for sleek design and emerging hot talent made his Scandals the only real rival to the Masters productions. He had the novel idea of using only one composer for each of his 13 editions, and his particular passion for the latest dance craze allowed his leading dancer, Anne Pennington, to introduce several popular new steps to Broadway, such as the Black Bottom. Such future stars as Helen Morgan, Ethel Merman and Ray Bolger got their first big breaks with White. I hope at least one of these things have prompted chuckles, raised eyebrows or gasps from you. Ziegfeld loved to surprise his audiences and those who knew him behind the scenes. Today the spirit of the Ziegfeld Follies is still very much alive. The Broadway musical as we know it would not have been possible without the unique mix of style, sophistication and sheer spectacle that the master showman, Florenze Ziegfeld, bestowed on the American stage. If you liked this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you are new here, and if you want to support my work, please visit my Patreon page. Now it is your turn. What do you think about the legacy of Ziegfeld Follies? Broadway musicals would not exist without it.